As we gear up for another election season, are your investments prepared for a possible bumpy ride ahead? I'm John Shrewsbury, in for Scott Inman in this week's Fastest Four. So, election season brings a lot of uncertainty. Times like this are famously heavy in doom and gloom news and fear-mongering. But that uncertainty isn't just exclusive to the political news cycle. Markets can be volatile too. Looking back, we see mixed market performances during election years. Investors tend to buy and sell a bit more erratically as they try to navigate the possibilities of major policy changes and the subsequent economic response. Think about what happened in 2016. The market took a nosedive on election night, then bounced back up the very next day. Talk about a whiplash. 2020 experienced similar, perhaps even more dramatic volatility with the additional uncertainty of the pandemic weighing in. Hearing this, you may be shocked to learn that investment performance is more influenced by policies than political affiliation. Take a look at this chart. If you invested $100,000 in the S&P 500 back in 1950, but only remained invested during years when a Democrat was president, you would have had around $3.1 million today, compared to about $1 million if you only invested when a Republican was president. Now you may be thinking, John, that's a pretty significant gap. And you'd be right until you compare it to the $32.6 million that you would have made if you bought and held the S&P 500 over the entire time frame. As we always say, time in the market beats timing the market. Different sectors react differently to election outcomes. Healthcare can show great volatility depending on candidates' proposed changes, and energy can do the same. However, technology is historically steady through election times. Bank stocks may perform better under a Trump policy of deregulation, whereas green energy and infrastructure stocks could do better under a second Biden administration or alternatively a Democratic candidate of another flavor. Different congressional setups have differing effects as well. A Democratic president with a Republican or split Congress has historically generated average returns of near 16%. A Republican president with a split Congress is also good for stocks, with an average return of about 14% on the S&P 500. The less impressive returns have come during President George W. Bush's administration, which included two bear markets, 2001 through 2002 and 2008, and dragged down average performance under Republican presidents with a unified Congress, either Democrat or GOP. Even those two awful bear markets, the average S&P 500 return under those two congressional scenarios is still positive. So if you think this pattern holds, we would argue that holding equities is justified. While some investors fear a downturn during election season, others see it as an opportunity. Needless to say, it can be a bit of an emotional time. But remember that emotions aren't good decision makers. If you take one thing away from this week's Fastest Four, let it be to stay the course. Buckle in for a few bumpy months ahead, stick to your long-term financial plan, and ride out the election with confidence. That's the Fastest 4 Minutes in Finance. Thanks for watching.
Want to become smarter financially in 4 minutes or less? Sign up at fastest4.com to get insights and updates like this delivered to your inbox weekly.